Why do you think I'm talking to you?
I don't know. I would never hurt her. Like, burned her?
Yeah. And that's the last thing she told me.
God. Burned her?
Yes.
In reference to the call,
Uh-huh.
we're on scene and prior saying that the patient, she's got second-degree burns over 100% of her body, but she's saying that there was no vehicle involved, that people dragged her out of her house and set her on fire.
She dreamed of saving enough to return to Texas, but her plans were cut short in the most horrifying way. Betrayed by people she believed were her friends, Audreanna fell victim to a chilling tale of lies, violence, and unspeakable cruelty. Before slipping into a coma, she did something extraordinary. She uttered 3 names. Those words became the key to unraveling the mystery behind her brutal murder. What led to such shocking betrayal? What role did her last words play in catching her killers? This is the haunting case of the burnt-alive girl who solved her own murder. In March 2010, Tina Brown, Britnee Miller, Heather Lee, and Audreanna resided in neighboring trailers at a mobile home park in Escambia County, Florida. Initially, the 4 women were close friends, but their relationships, especially between Heather, Tina, and Audreanna, were often tumultuous, with conflicts frequently escalating into physical altercations. At just 19 years old, Audreanna moved to Cypress Trail Mobile Home Park with her 2 young children. Originally from Lubbock, Texas, Audreanna was a dedicated single mother determined to provide a better life for her children. Her family affectionately called her Augie. Audreanna worked hard to save money for a trip back to Texas to visit her mother, as she lacked a strong support system in Florida outside of her so-called friends. Heather had even promised to help Audreanna earn enough money to leave the trailer park and return to Texas. Audreanna recognized that the environment at the trailer park was unsafe for her and her children. She wanted a fresh start and was determined to shield her kids from the illegal activities surrounding them. Her family described her as a loving and devoted mother. Even in her final moments, Audreanna prioritized her children, pleading with first responders to ensure her kids were cared for because they were home alone. Rumors suggested that many residents in the park were involved in illegal activities, including drug sales and escort work. Allegedly, Tina, Heather, Audreanna, and their partners were also engaged in escort work. In the 4 months leading up to the murder, police were called to the trailer park 25 times. Tina had previously accused Audreanna of slashing her tires, while Audreanna alleged that Tina had broken her car window, caused her boyfriend to be arrested, and reported her to the Florida Department of Children and Families for child neglect. Their volatile relationship could barely be described as a friendship. Within the group, Heather often acted as a mediator, though she had her own moments of instigation. Heather later testified in court that she had to intervene several times because the physical altercations had become so severe. The events leading to the murder began with an argument between Audreanna and Britnee, Tina's daughter. Britnee accused Audreanna of sleeping with her boyfriend and attempted to attack her. However, Audreanna defended herself with a stun gun. Later that day, Heather informed Tina about the altercation and mentioned that Audreanna had used the stun gun on Britnee. Enraged, Tina vowed she was going to get Audreanna, setting the stage for the tragic events that followed. On March 24, 2010, Tina invited Audreanna to her trailer under the pretense of mending their fractured friendship. Unbeknownst to Audreanna, this was a setup for a brutal ambush. Before Audreanna's arrival, Heather showed Tina how to use a stun gun. When Audreanna arrived at Tina's mobile home around 9 p.m., she was met by Tina, Britnee, and Heather. Shortly after arriving, Audreanna was stunned multiple times by Tina, causing her to collapse to the ground. Tina continued using the stun gun as Audreanna screamed in agony and begged for help. They dragged Audreanna to the bathroom, where Britnee punched her in the face, and Heather silenced her by stuffing a sock into her mouth. Wanting to take her to a secluded location, they placed a pillowcase over her head, restrained her hands behind her back, and forced her into the trunk of Tina's car. Tina threatened Audreanna that any attempt to scream would result in further tasing. At a remote area, they opened the trunk, removed the pillowcase, and untied Audreanna. Heather told her to run, only for Tina and Britnee to chase her down. After Audreanna fell to the ground, they mercilessly beat her with a crowbar and stunned her again. Tina then ordered Heather to retrieve a gas can from the car. Heather hesitated and Tina threatened her, saying, "Do what I say, or the same thing will happen to you." Heather complied, and Tina doused Audreanna in gasoline before setting her on fire. As Audreanna screamed in agony, Britnee jumped up and down, yelling, "Burn, burn." Heather discarded her blood-stained shoes at the crime scene. They then returned to Tina's car and left Audreanna to die. While driving, Britnee sought medical attention after breaking her hand during the assault. Tina stayed behind with Heather to ensure Heather wouldn't reveal what had happened. Back at Tina's trailer, they removed their bloody clothing, placing it in a garbage bag. Later that night, Heather witnessed Tina beating Britnee with a broomstick, angrily saying she had done all of this for her. Meanwhile, Terence Hendrick was sitting outside enjoying the spring evening when he heard faint cries for help. At first, he assumed it was people passing by, but the distressed moans grew louder. To his shock, he saw Audreanna stumbling toward him, her arms outstretched. Little did he know he was about to witness something so gruesome and inhumane. His fresh spring air was overtaken by a pungent smell of burning meat and a distinctive metallic scent. She reeked of gasoline. He could see that her body was so severely burnt that it was impossible to determine her skin color or whether she was wearing clothes. Audreanna had managed to walk a third of a mile from the attack site to Terence's porch. Alarmed, he immediately called 911.
What's going on out there?
Somebody burn up. Her, this lady on fire right now.
Do what?
She burnt all up. You gotta.
She's burnt?
She burnt. Somebody probably set the car on fire or something. I don't know. She just come out of the woods to my house.
Terence could see that Audreanna had suffered a severe head injury. He was astonished that she was even still alive. At approximately 9:24 p.m., EMTs and Fire Chief Hercules Kinnard arrived at the scene. As they approached Audreanna, they were immediately struck by the severity of her condition. She was sitting on the ground, rocking back and forth, her arms stretched out and held away from her body in an attempt to avoid further pain. Her movements were slow and deliberate, indicating immense discomfort. Audreanna, despite her critical state, managed to communicate with Chief Kinnard. She pleaded with him to check on her children and provided her address. When asked who did it, she identified Tina Brown and Heather Lee, repeating their names multiple times.
I told her that I was probably going to be the last person she talked to for a while, and that in order to catch the people that did this to her, I needed her to tell me if she knew who it was. She told me yes, and she named 3 girls, a Tina, a Heather, and a Britnee. She did not give me last names. And I asked her why they did it to her, and she said, I thought we'd made up.
She also gave the addresses of her assailants, noting that Tina lived on Lot 3 and Heather on Lot 1. The first responders were shocked by what they saw. Audreanna's burns were catastrophic, covering an estimated 70 to 80% of her body. Her skin was charred, blistered, and in some areas peeling off entirely. The EMTs observed that even the slightest movement seemed to cause her excruciating pain. Her jaw appeared severely deformed, jutting out unnaturally, making her speech difficult to understand. Despite this, they were able to discern her repeated pleas for help and her desperate statement, "I'm about to pass out." The team noted that Audreanna's skin was so badly burned that when they attempted to stabilize her neck, it began to peel off, sticking to their gloves. Protocol for treating burn victims involved covering the burns with gauze, but the EMTs quickly realized they didn't have enough supplies to cover the extent of her injuries. They were limited in what they could do to alleviate her suffering until she could receive specialized care at a hospital. Before Audreanna passed out, they tried their best to get as much information about what happened that night and who did this to her. Audreanna struggled to stay conscious, but she was able to give critical details about the brutal attack she had endured. She explained that she had been abducted, repeatedly tased, ambushed, beaten with a crowbar, and ultimately set on fire. The EMTs were astonished that she remained conscious and coherent given the extent of her injuries. One member of the team remarked that this was the worst case of burns they had encountered in all their years of service. As Audreanna is rushed to the hospital, the EMT staff tried their best to comfort her.
I told her, keep fighting. And she kept saying over and over again, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? And I told her I was going to try. And she said, just tell me I'm going to wake up and see my babies. I got to talking to her, and I told her that I was probably going to be the last person she talked to for a while, and that in order to catch the people that did this to her, I needed her to tell me if she knew who it was. And I asked her why they did it to her, and she said, I thought we'd made up.
Despite her own condition, Audreanna was consumed with worry for her children. She feared that her attackers might target them next and implored the EMTs to ensure their safety. Audreanna was transferred to the burn center at the University of South Alabama Hospital. Upon arrival, the medical team administered morphine to manage her pain. Not long after, she slipped into a coma. Tragically, Audreanna succumbed to her injuries 16 days later, just 5 days before her 20th birthday. An autopsy revealed the extent of the injuries she had endured. A laceration was found on her right parietal scalp, accompanied by 2 bruises on her right parietal and temporal regions, indicative of severe blunt force trauma. Burns covered her torso, lower extremities, scalp, and upper back. The official cause of death was listed as multiple thermal injuries. A few hours after Audreanna was admitted to the hospital, deputies headed to the trailer park to begin their investigation. Their first stop was lot number 3, where Tina Brown lived with her 16-year-old daughter, Britnee Miller. Despite repeated knocks, there was no response. The deputies then moved to lot number 1, the residence of Heather Lee and her husband, Darren Lee. Officers persistently knocked on both doors for over an hour, determined to get answers. Eventually, Heather reluctantly opened her door. To the officers' surprise, Heather, Darren, and Tina had been inside the entire time. All 3 were promptly taken to the sheriff's office for questioning. Law enforcement was especially eager to locate Britnee Miller. Officers searched the trailer park and surrounding areas but found no sign of her. When questioned, Tina informed them that Britnee had broken her hand and was at the hospital seeking treatment. The deputies immediately dispatched all patrol cars with Britnee's physical description and details about her car's make and model. Although Heather was not formally under arrest, she was detained on reasonable suspicion of being involved in criminal activity. At this point, the officers lacked hard evidence or probable cause to charge her with a crime. Nevertheless, they placed her in the back of a police car as they continued their investigation.
Okay. Well, first of all, we're investigating a battery here with your neighbor there behind you.
Audreanna?
I guess. The lady lives behind you. Listen to me now.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay. I just seen Audreanna earlier today.
My name is Investigator Watts. I'm with the Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
And we were called out here on an aggravated some type of disturbance tonight, okay? Where your neighbor was critically injured, and you have been implicated, maybe having some knowledge or information, or even being involved.
Okay.
I have to ask you some questions, but before I ask you any questions, I'm gonna have to advise you your rights, okay? First of all, tell me, do you know the situation we're talking about here?
No, sir. That's why I keep asking you what's going on.
Okay. Where have you been all afternoon? What have you been doing?
I've been here at the house. I was cooking. I see Audreanna earlier today.
Who?
Audreanna, my neighbor. She was down this way by my aunt's house talking with us earlier. And then I had went back in the house. I cooked and I laid down after that.
Okay, is anybody in the house with you?
Nobody but my husband. He was in there asleep.
Not your
In
husband?
bed, yeah.
Y'all, it's just two of y'all live there?
Yeah. My kids are with my mom.
Okay, this girl was taken from her house and beaten up. Okay?
Okay. I seen her earlier today. She told me that she had a date. That's all she told me. And I asked her who it was. She was riding a bike up and down Detroit. And I asked her when she went that way, I said, where do you keep going when you go that way? She kept saying Fowler. But she would never tell me where on Fowler. And then she said, girl, I got a hot date tonight.
Without any prompting from the officers, Heather appeared eager to seem cooperative and forthcoming with information, attempting to shift their focus away from herself. She tried to bolster her alibi, claiming she hadn't gone anywhere that evening and had spent the night cooking fish and fries. Heather even pointed out that the food was still on the stove as proof. When asked whether she or Tina had any issues with Audreanna, Heather denied any animosity. She insisted that she and Audreanna were close friends who spent time together daily. Heather emphasized this point, saying, "I would not harm a hair on her head," in an apparent attempt to persuade the officers of her innocence. The officer put Darren and Heather in the back of the police car. Darren is well acquainted with the law. He had 2 felony convictions in 2001 for delivery or sale of controlled substances and aggravated battery. In 2015, Darren was convicted of felony battery. Little did they know that the officer kept the car camera on in case they revealed incriminating information. After closing the car door, the couple started retracing their steps to make sure that their stories didn't contradict each other.
Your husband will come in here. He wants to talk to you.
Okay. That's it? What you did then?
I'm talking from about 2 murders.
That's what they told me.
They say, real thing, go down and ask some questions or something.
I'm gonna what?
Go down and ask some questions. I told them before that blocking Brown came by and ate some fish with them. Told them that y'all may leave. But she said that you told them that we were asleep.
I told her that I was just in there asleep.
448, copy code.
See, I told them that we was eating fish like the movie.
Go ahead, 448. 17,
Yeah, and I was right there on the couch. And Blocking Graham came by.
Yeah, man. That's bullshit, man. That's why I'm not doing this.
But I was trouble.
They hit my team up back for enough questions. Y'all ain't getting charged with that shit. You don't have y'all questions.
I ain't got no problem with going. Like I told him. I seen Audreanna earlier today.
They talking about the gas can and everything else.
What gas can?
Gas can from the on the floor.
The gas. Them gas cans been on the porch. I don't even know who gas cans do this.
I told them Jerry. Jerry.
I don't know who gas cans do this.
Heather's response to Darren's comment about the police removing gas cans from their porch appears excessively panicked and intense, especially since at that point the officers had not yet revealed that Audreanna had been burned. The deputies rushed to Ashland Avenue about 2 miles from the trailer park. They taped off the area to prevent the evidence from being contaminated or destroyed. They found a pair of white shoes, a Talon stun gun, and a skirt. There was also a trail of burnt tissue with blood, ash, and a crowbar. Further down, there was a burnt bra and other unrecognizable things. The deputies found tire tracks on the dirt road. Later, when they took Tina's car for inspection, the tire matched what was found at the crime scene. Lastly, lumps of hair weave were found. It was clear that the weave was not Audreanna's. This would later be important evidence. The deputy noticed that Tina's hair weave was similar to the weave found at the crime scene. He could see that some parts of the weave at the back of her head were missing. It's possible that when Audreanna fought back, she grabbed chunks of Tina's hair, and that's why they found the same type of weave at the crime scene. Tina testified with the deputy that everyone at the trailer park fought, and she had a hot and cold relationship with Audreanna. She said they made up that day and spent the whole day watching movies together. When all three were brought into the interrogation room, their stories were inconsistent and failed to align. Each gave a different explanation for why they didn't open the door when officers were knocking. Tina claimed they had been in the living room watching movies. She dismissively remarked, "It ain't my door," and admitted they were being nosy, watching the officers walk around and knock on Audreanna's door. Tina added that the sequence of events began when her daughter Britnee was braiding her hair, but the braiding became painful, so Tina took a break and went to Heather's house. She said she joined them for fish and fries before they began watching movies together. Heather, however, provided a completely different account. She stated, "Tina hasn't been at my house all night. She came and knocked on the door and said the police were out there. I was asleep." Darren's story contradicted Heather's but matched Tina's version more closely. He said he noticed the police outside, which made him nervous, and claimed it was he who alerted the women to the officer's presence. According to Darren, Tina was already in the house at the time, a detail that starkly differed from Heather's statement. Heather's inconsistent account suggested she might have been trying to distance herself from Tina and shift suspicion elsewhere. Despite this, she told investigators that all of them were friends. Next, police reviewed the crime scene evidence, including a taser found in the grass alongside burnt items. The ownership of the taser quickly became a point of contention. Heather denied involvement, claiming she was home cooking all day. She stated that Britnee had the taser, but didn't know its owner, adding she'd seen it lying at Tina's house. With contradictions emerging, the police pressed Tina, but her story remained unchanged. The police inquired about an incident that happened a week prior. They had gone out to the trailer park to speak with Audreanna about problems she had in the neighborhood. Tina said they spoke with her too, and she was there. Tina said that was when she saw Audreanna having a taser.
You know, the police came out there last week to talk to her about the problems she had in her neighborhood.
Yeah, they talked to me too.
Okay. So you were there. What was the problem?
Her and another girl come out there to fight Audreanna because Audreanna was supposed to have gotten smart with her on the phone.
Okay.
And Audreanna's boyfriend was there, Andre Smith, and he sent Audreanna in the house. No, he came outside the house, and he was saying that I was in the middle of that, which I didn't even know the white girl. And then he said, he cussed all the kids out and me that was outside. And he told Audreanna to go in the house and get that thing or whatever. She came back outside on the porch. She was on the porch cussing, and she came out in the walkway, and she tried to tase my daughter.
Who tried to tase your daughter?
Audreanna.
Audreanna got a taser? What kind of taser?
I just think it was a black one.
A black one?
She said that,
You seen it?
Yeah, everybody out there saw it.
Me.
I just know it was black.
Okay.
And it made a loud noise.
Okay.
Everybody out there saw it.
Britnee had a taser.
Did the taser belong to Britney?
I'm not sure.
What that taser look like?
I seen it once before. It was big. It was long. It was a long taser. It was made.
What color?
Black.
Okay.
It was black. It was probably about that long. It had like little things on the side of it. I never seen the taser before. That was the first time I ever seen it. When I seen it.
How you know it was Britney's?
Britney had it, so I don't know.
Have you ever seen Britney with that taser before this?
No, today was the first time I seen her with.
You saw Tina
That
today?
day or today?
Today was the first time.
Today you saw Tina,
I
Britnee?
seen Britney with it on the counter earlier.
Today?
Earlier today, it was laying on a counter
In
at
her,
my house.
in Tina's house.
And I seen that taser, and I asked her, I said, what is that taser for? And they told me to stay out of grown folks' business.
With no clarity, police reinterrogated Tina. She claimed to be best friends with Audreanna in the trailer park, directly contradicting Heather's statement.
Heather's telling me that she always has to protect Audreanna from you and your daughter. You and your daughter chasing around all over the place. Your daughter has a taser. She saw the taser over at your house today.
My baby don't have a taser. We never had a taser.
I don't know. That's what she's telling me. Why is she telling me that?
I don't know. We never had a taser, sir.
Okay.
Audreanna had a taser. We never had a taser. My baby was tased.
Y'all stories
She
are getting
didn't
further
tase
and further apart.
Like I said, Audreanna tried to tase Britney with the taser. Britney has a scratch across her chest right here. That I was grabbing Britney from off the porch so that they wouldn't fight. I told you we were best friends in that trailer park in the beginning.
That's funny, because Heather says that her and Audreanna are best friends and that you and Audreanna don't get along and that you and Audreanna are constantly having problems and that you and your daughter have been chasing Audreanna around this trailer park, trying to hurt her, and that you have a taser in your house. And that taser was Britney's taser. And that Britney had chased
when the police come
Audreanna
out there,
around.
if you can check back, when the police came out there, Audreanna called the police that day.
Okay.
I told the police what happened. The same thing I'm telling you is that Audreanna tried to tase Britney with the taser. The same thing I'm telling you, Audreanna called the police that day.
And you wanted to press charges?
No, what'd I say?
I don't know.
No, actually, no. They didn't even come out there to press charges. They told us to just cool it out. For us to stay on our side, for her to stay on that side. That's what she said.
I talked to the officer who came out there that night.
Was supposed to be leaving town. She was not going to be here for long.
Okay, right. Because I talked to that officer. He told me exactly that. Okay. But he told me that Audreanna did not wish to pursue charges against y'all.
Well, he never asked us about pressing charges. He just said for us to cool it out because he's tired of coming out here.
He didn't ask you because you weren't the one bringing forth the charges. She was.
Okay.
Why
would I bring charges? I didn't.
No, you weren't.
I know
she was going to bring charges against y'all for attacking her.
But we didn't attack her.
But so that's what she told.
Her boyfriend. Audreanna's boyfriend told her to go get that thing. Audreanna was standing on the porch arguing. She wasn't even thinking about going to get a taser. He told her to go get that thing. We didn't know what that thing was until she came outside with it. I didn't know she had a taser.
Then why is Heather saying that she sees the taser in your house and that Britney has it and that Britney is trying to... I know where it is right now. It's in my evidence locker.
Okay, well then how do we have it?
Because Heather says you have it.
Where do we get a taser from? We don't even know nobody here. We don't have no family here. Only people we know is the people in the trailer park. Where would we get a taser from?
I don't know. You can buy them all over the place. They sell them at pawn shops and everywhere else.
As you can see, denied everything the deputy was saying. Tina's frustration with Heather for blaming her daughter is evident, but Britney seems far less concerned about it.
We have information that you and Andrea, that y'all argued a lot. And y'all fought. Your mom had to break you up one time. Is this true?
Yeah.
What was y'all fighting about?
I have the slightest idea. If you really want to know the truth, somebody else was there to fight her. We were outside to watch it. She gets mad and she tries to tase me.
We have Heather saying that the taser belonged to you. She's seen it at your house.
Okay.
Is this a truth or a lie?
It's a lie. Only time I've seen a taser was when Audreanna tried to tase me. That night, that day, Mom had to separate us.
And how long ago was that?
2 weeks ago. Something like that.
Is that when you almost had to fight on the porch?
Yeah.
You ever seen a stun gun over in anybody's house?
Yeah.
Where you seen one at?
At Zimmerman's house.
Okay. That's interesting you say that, because your wife says she saw it over at Tina's house. So your wife's telling us all this stuff that makes Tina look bad. And you're telling us that it was at Zimmerman's house, right?
It was gave to her.
It was gave to her by who?
Andre Smith.
Andre Smith gave her a taser.
Yeah.
Where's Andre Smith?
He locked up.
He locked. Is that her boyfriend or her husband?
Her boyfriend.
Boyfriend. And describe it. Well, actually, I already described it, didn't I? Can't really ask you to describe it.
Like you got tape on it because the back part missed.
Oh, yeah? Who put the tape on it? Who put the tape on it?
Who put the tape on it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who put the tape on it.
You mentioned some tape.
Because there's tape on there. That tape.
All right. But you saw it with tape on there because the back's missing. So, I mean, you seeing a taser and there's tape on it is one thing. You seeing a taser and knowing the reason for the tape being on it is a totally different thing.
Exactly.
So how come you know that the back is missing? Was this explained to you, or did you see it put on, or do you know?
No, I seen the tape.
Okay. But like I said, seeing tape, if you saw tape on this recorder on here, you wouldn't necessarily know that the tape's on there to keep the battery in place.
If you ain't got no back part, I know.
It doesn't have no back part. Okay. So it has no back plate and tape's on it.
Yeah.
Okay. That does make sense. All right. So Andre Smith gave it to her.
Yeah.
Where does she normally keep it?
In a cabinet.
Where?
In the top cabinet. By the refrigerator.
And who else would know this?
Whoever been in the house.
Why, she go, hey, here's where I keep my taser?
No, because she was like always pulling it out and be playing with it.
Really? Well, she made threats with people or something?
No, she just be playing. You know? Now, I ain't gonna lie, at one point in time, everybody was cool with everybody.
Darren's account seems to align more with Tina's version of events than with his wife's. It's possible that Heather is attempting to shift blame onto Tina, while Darren might be sticking to the truth to avoid implicating himself. The altercation involving a taser between Audreanna and Britnee marked the beginning of a series of events that ultimately led to the brutal attack on Audreanna. These escalating incidents gradually revealed the shocking motive behind the crime. After the initial round of interrogations, all individuals were released, unaware of the mounting evidence against them. Though they remained tight-lipped with authorities, they were openly confiding in others, individuals who proved to be unreliable allies. Shortly after the interrogations, law enforcement received a disturbing call from Tina's neighbor. According to the report, Tina had asked Pam to ensure Audreanna didn't survive her hospital stay. Furthermore, Tina requested that Pam and her daughter take lie detector tests on behalf of her and Britnee. Pam eventually disclosed Tina's alarming plan to the police, solidifying Tina's apparent lack of remorse and her willingness to go to extreme lengths to cover her tracks. Adding to the investigation, police received an anonymous call from a relative of Tina's in Illinois. The caller claimed to have critical information about the case. According to their account, Tina called her mother 2 days after the attack and confessed that she, Britnee, and Heather had assaulted Audreanna. As Audreanna attempted to escape, a dispute broke out between Tina and Britnee. When Audreanna made another desperate run toward the woods, Britnee tackled her. It was at that moment Tina set Audreanna on fire. The three fled the scene, but during their getaway, Britnee realized she had left a shoe behind at the crime scene. Despite her concern, Tina insisted it was too late to go back. This chilling sequence of events paints a harrowing picture of the crime and the suspects' callous disregard for their actions. Police recovered Tina's red Hyundai SUV and discovered bloodstains on the passenger headrest, dashboard, and back seat. Evidence suggested a deliberate attempt to eliminate traces of the crime, including the use of hand sanitizer to clean the vehicle's interior and burning the clothing worn during the attack. The lighter fluid used in the incident was also discarded in an attempt to cover their tracks. The investigator interrogated Tina again after uncovering critical evidence. They aimed to understand why Tina and the others committed such horrific acts against Audreanna.
Tina, you remember me? And this investigator, Tyree.
Mm-hmm.
You know what this is all about.
Now we're going to tell you what we think happened. Good, Tom.
On that particular night, you, Britnee, and Heather were gotten in a verbal altercation, a physical altercation with Audreanna Zimmerman.
Okay.
Okay. The fight kind of escalated a little bit, got out of hand. She was attacked with a pry bar, whatever you want to call it, crowbar, and then she was disabled with a stun gun, and then set on fire.
And all this was supposed to happen in the trailer park, and nobody heard it.
Not at the trailer. I didn't say at the trailer park. I'm saying during that night. It originated at the trailer park. You, Britnee, Heather, and maybe one or two other people transported her over to the Ashland Avenue on the gas lines, and that's where
The what? What?
Ashland Avenue.
What is that?
It's out another road over by the house. And that's where it went bad. We've got information that you're involved in it.
Like this, Tina.
Listen.
Not only did our victim name you,
You know
first
what?
and
We
last
went
name,
and talked to those
not
people
only
yesterday.
did they name Heather, not only did they name your daughter, you've also told people. You know, that's how we know the story, too.
Me?
Yeah. Why don't you let me finish telling?
Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead.
We hear that you used lighter fluid, poured it on her, and lit her up. And you're mad at Britnee because she got up off the girl, and that's how she got up and got to run away.
I'm mad at my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else, sir?
Yeah.
What else? What else is it?
She told two people.
Who?
She told the fire chief, and she told the EMS supervisor.
Okay. Now, when did she do that?
Right before they put her under.
If Audreanna's supposed to have told these people this, wouldn't you think that she would have told them everything that can happen if you laying on the ground and you burning up and you about to die?
She told everything she could was the pain she was in at that time, and they didn't give her long because they had to put her out. She said, EMS supervisor told her, she kept asking her, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? She said, I'm going to do the best we can for you. You ain't going around here telling people you killed that girl. You're talking to your relatives and telling them that. And they calling us. But you're talking to somebody and telling them that, she go ahead and die. Y'all be good to go. Well, that ain't the case, is it? Because she died. She died last night. Succumbs to her wounds.
They told us that she was in a coma yesterday.
She died last night.
She died last night. Why you think we come back out there like gangbusters today?
Mm-hmm. That's why you're under arrest for murder.
Dad, the one who told us that.
Who?
Our lawyer's Gene, his dad. He said he called down there and they said that she was in a deep coma.
Well, she didn't come out of it. But guess what? We got information from the ME that she didn't make it because of the burns. Now you sit there, you think about it. You think about what we're saying. That woman, those kids would never see their mama again. You've got a chance to see your kids.
You think I don't know that?
You got a chance to see your kids again somewhere down the road. Now, like I said, we're not going to sit here with you as long as we did the other night. Maybe you didn't mean for it to be this way, but that's what I said. We don't know. So you need us to be able to tell your side of the story when it comes time to go before the judge. And by you just sitting over there, not, thinking we don't have nothing, we've only gave you a little bit of what we got. And believe me, it's not hearsay. We know that that night, those clothes were taken and burned that y'all were wearing.
Burn where? We still had the same clothes on the next morning when they came to get us.
Don't you have two small children? You know these children?
She went to country. Yes, I know them.
Okay. This is their mama they ain't never going to see again.
To elicit a response, they presented Tina with a photograph of Audreanna's burned body, hoping to provoke her into revealing the motive. After showing Tina the photo, investigators left the room to observe her reaction. What followed was both chilling and unsettling. Tina eerily called out to Audreanna, as though addressing her directly.
Audreanna, Lord have mercy. Come back. And heart was terrorized. Please, Audreanna. Audreanna. I told you. Oh, you was a sweet girl. Oh, I tried to avoid.
The exact motive for the brutal murder of Audreanna remains unclear, but emerging details suggest a web of jealousy, betrayal, and conflict within the trailer park community. Allegations surfaced that Audreanna had confided in Heather, claiming that Tina was having an affair with Darren. To complicate matters further, it was also rumored that Audreanna herself was romantically involved with Darren, a revelation that led to a confrontation between her and Heather. This web of infidelity grew even messier as Darren openly bragged about his relationships. He alleged that Tina only slept with him in exchange for substances, and during one phone call referred to someone as his sugar thing, a term not meant for Heather.
I'm gonna call you right back, man.
You done?
Yeah.
All right. Who's that, Heather?
Little tenderoni.
Huh?
No, the little tenderoni, man.
Oh, sorry. When you said you were on the phone with your sugar thing or whatever just now, was it Tina you were talking to?
No, that's somebody else.
Okay. But you told me that night you were seeing Tina.
Yeah.
Okay. So is she not your sugar thing?
Yeah, that's my old mama.
Okay. That's your old mama. Okay. All right. Did you and Ms. Zimmerman have any kind of relationship?
Somewhere.
All right. Did y'all have?
Somewhere.
Okay. This ain't like Monica Lewinsky, man. We you know, did you have sex with her or did?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had sexual intercourse with Ms. Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Did your wife know of this?
No.
Did your wife know of you having sex with Tina?
No.
I bet you don't know about this other thing you got on the side either, does she? Okay. Okay. So, have you been accused by Heather of having sex with Zimmerman? Okay.
Only Tina.
Did Tina make any accusations? I mean, Tina probably knows that you're sleeping with Zimmerman, doesn't she? Okay, so none of your girls know that you're sleeping with the other one. You're doing a good game, right? Okay. So, Heather is aware of the accusations of you having sex with Tina.
Yeah.
But her and Tina are still tight cooking fish together. See, that's what blows my mind, man. You got a good game going on. If them two, knowing the accusation there, you still got them over there cooking fish together. Either you got a good game or Tina does, because she's playing it off well. So, you know, me and Rusty sat there and laughed about that all night, but we couldn't figure out how you were getting away with that, man, because our wives would, you know, we'd be done. They'd have our cars and our boats and everything else, you know.
On May 10th, 2010, shortly after Tina, Heather and Britnee were arrested, police received a letter from an incarcerated man claiming to know who killed Audreanna and why. According to his account, several months before the murder, he had purchased illegal substances from Darren at the Roadway Inn. Audreanna was allegedly present during the transaction. The man stated that Heather arrived at the scene armed with a box cutter and threatened Audreanna, reportedly shouting that she would get her sooner or later. During the trial, Heather portrayed herself as a victim, claiming she had no involvement in Audreanna's murder. However, this defense unraveled when a fellow inmate testified that Heather had confessed her role in the crime. The inmate revealed that Heather admitted they had lured Audreanna into their car under the pretense of going grocery shopping. Once Audreanna was inside, the assault began. Heather eventually accepted a plea bargain in exchange for her testimony against Tina. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Britnee, who was 16 at the time, was sentenced to life in prison. On June 21, 2012, Tina Brown was convicted of the first-degree murder of Audreanna Zimmerman. During the trial, her 2 sons, brother, aunt, 2 uncles, and Dr. Bailey, a psychologist, testified on her behalf. Their testimonies shed light on the traumatic experiences that might have influenced Tina's actions. During the penalty phase, the part of a criminal trial where the punishment for a defendant is decided, Tina's defense focused on illustrating how her traumatic background influenced her actions toward Audreanna. 1. As a child, Tina endured severe physical and sexual abuse at the hands of her father and exploitation by her stepmother. She was exposed to abandonment, substance abuse, and a violent criminal environment. 2. As an adult, Tina faced domestic violence and struggled with addiction, which eventually led to her losing custody of 2 of her children. 3. She also suffered abuse from ex-husbands and ex-boyfriends throughout her adult life. Tina's upbringing was far from ideal. Despite her parents holding steady jobs, they frequently partied, often indulging in drugs and alcohol. Her father had a criminal side, selling drugs and firearms, and served as the enforcer for his organization, punishing those who broke its rules. Weekends often meant her parents would spend nights at clubs, leaving Tina and her brother, Willie Jr., in the care of relatives from Friday evening to Sunday night. This left Tina as the primary caregiver for her younger brother. Her mother eventually left to escape the abuse, but promised to return after securing a divorce. However, Tina's father retained a lawyer and charged her mother with child abandonment. After her 12th birthday, her parents divorced, and her father was awarded full custody. Tragically, Tina later endured sexual abuse at the hands of her father. Her father treated her as though she were his girlfriend, creating a deeply disturbing dynamic. When Tina confided in her paternal grandmother about the abuse and sought help, her plea was met with disbelief and anger. Her grandmother refused to accept that her son could sexually abuse his children. The sexual abuse only ended when Tina's father remarried. However, his behavior deteriorated significantly after the marriage. Once known for his hard work and polished appearance, he became disheveled and began asking others for small amounts of money. His new wife, Melinda, shared his drug habits, and the couple would often lock themselves in their bedroom for hours, leaving Tina and her brother unsupervised and vulnerable. Despite the end of the sexual abuse, Tina still feared being left alone with her father when Melinda was away running errands. Initially, Tina had a good relationship with her stepmother, but this changed when Melinda drank. She became verbally abusive, described as loud, argumentative, aggressive, and frequently used profanity. Tina recounted one incident where Melinda came to her school to show her bruises inflicted by Tina's father, which heightened Tina's fear of returning home and facing more abuse. In desperation, Tina tried to escape by gathering her belongings and climbing out of a window. Fortunately, her uncle stepped in to help her. Throughout her life, Tina lacked stability. Her father and stepmother frequently relocated, moving at least 4 times to various public housing projects in northern Chicago. These neighborhoods were rife with gang activity and violence, compounding the chaos in Tina's life. These experiences are presented as mitigating factors during the sentencing phase, emphasizing how Tina's traumatic background influenced her behavior and decisions. Her stepmother was the one who introduced her to drugs and exploited her for money. Although her uncle tried to intervene and reason with her father, it became evident that her father was indifferent and unwilling to prioritize his children. His sole focus was his new wife, who mattered more to him than his family. When Tina was around 15 or 16, she moved in with her mother. Adjusting to a household with structure and rules was challenging for her, and after continued struggles, her mother eventually forced her to leave. Tina then moved in with her aunt and attempted to go back to school, but ultimately dropped out of high school. Later, she returned to complete her studies and earned her diploma. After graduating, Tina moved into a house where drug use was prevalent. There, she met Greg Miller, who became her husband and the father of her 3 children. Their relationship was marked by substance abuse, alcohol dependency, and violence. At one point, Tina and her daughter Britnee lived with Tina's father, who continued to use drugs. During this time, Britnee, then 13 or 14 years old, became involved with a drug dealer. She obtained drugs from him and supplied them to her grandfather and step-grandmother. Another expert testified that although Tina had issues with anger, there was no evidence to suggest that her anger impaired her ability to think clearly or recognize that her actions were wrong. This expert argued that Tina's actions were premeditated, pointing to the cleanup efforts after the incident and the decision to send Britnee to the hospital. Additionally, asking their neighbor Pam to finish Audreanna off indicated a lack of remorse and an attempt to conceal the crime. The evidence further demonstrated premeditation. Before Audreanna arrived at Tina's home under the false pretense of rekindling their friendship, Tina had already obtained a stun gun and trained herself in its use. She also had gasoline prepared with the intent to set Audreanna on fire. Furthermore, Britnee had reportedly told her 13-year-old child that they were fixing to kill Audreanna. This was not a spontaneous act of escalating violence. Throughout the events, from the use of the stun gun to Audreanna's abduction and being taken to a wooded area, Tina and her accomplices had ample opportunity to reconsider their actions. In 2012, Tina LaSonia Brown was sentenced to death. As we reach the end of this heartbreaking story, it's impossible not to feel the weight of this tragedy. A young woman, full of life and promise, betrayed by those closest to her, a betrayal rooted in jealousy, a tangled love triangle, and a shocking spiral into violence. Audreanna Zimmerman's story serves as a haunting reminder of how trust can be shattered and how unchecked emotions can lead to unthinkable consequences. This was more than a crime, it was a devastating act of betrayal that forever altered the lives of everyone involved. Thank you for watching and taking the time to honor Audreanna's story with me. If this case moved you as much as it did me, please share your thoughts in the comments. Next week, I will be covering the story of the youngest woman sentenced to death row. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more cases that need to be told. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and take care of each other.